I have a real passion for growing the economy, for creating more jobs, for having an innovative, prosperous economy. And in order to do that, we're going to need less taxes. We're not competitive globally with our tax system. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. It's 35% at the federal level. It's 5% at the state level, combined 40%. It's uncompetitive. Not only that, but we have a worldwide tax system, which nobody has. I'll give you an example. If a multinational, an American multinational, has a subsidiary, let's say in Ireland, and we're competing with a multinational, a German multinational, which also has a subsidiary in Ireland, both companies make profits. The German company, they pay their 12.5% corporate tax rate in Ireland, repatriate the profits back to Ireland. It could be billions of dollars which go into the German economy. They repatriate, they don't have to pay taxes again. They already paid them once in the territory in which they earned them. Not so with American companies. When they come back, yeah, they'll get a credit for what they paid in Ireland, but they'll get a 12.5% credit, pay another 27.5% in taxes. But you know what? They don't even pay it because they don't bring the money back. There's over $1 trillion in orphaned profits overseas. So it doesn't even raise money. This money could be in America creating jobs and prosperity. Not only that, it creates this huge bureaucratic force going around the world, prying into bank accounts like UBS and violating all the privacy laws and secrecy laws in places like Switzerland. So we're making enemies around the world. In the States, we don't do that. If I make money in North Carolina, I exclude that. I pay the taxes in North Carolina, the state tax there, and I exclude it from my state tax return for South Carolina because I didn't earn it in South Carolina. So we need to get competitive globally. We need more free trade. You know, I'm always hearing Lindsey Graham fighting free trade. He and his buddy, the senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, they are opponents. They want to raise trade barriers. You see, instead of fighting wars with everybody, instead of trying to invade all these countries and invade your email accounts, we should be lowering barriers and trading with people and engaging in commerce, like Thomas Jefferson said at his first inaugural address. You know, commerce with everyone. You know, relations with all countries, entangling alliances with none. I agree in the wisdom of Thomas Jefferson. At the state level, in the United States, the capital gains rate should be eliminated. Most countries, like Germany, have a zero capital gains rate because it's an optional tax. You know, if the tax is too high, people don't transact. They don't sell property. They may leave money in an unproductive company. Therefore, a company that desperately needs the capital and wants to grow and hire people can't get access to capital. It creates inefficiency. Because people know if they take a profit in one company, they're going to have to give a lot of the profits to the government. But if we had a lower capital gains rate, one, the government would make money because every time we cut the rate, the government's revenues to the Treasury goes up. Two, more money could go to growing companies that more efficiently use that capital. The other thing is, oftentimes, when the taxes are too high, it induces people not to work or to work less. So we need to create incentives. It's all about incentives. You know, when Reagan came in, he cut the top marginal tax rate from 70 all the way to 28%. And as unbelievable as this may sound, revenues to the Treasury doubled. Granted, spending went up more, because to get the tax cuts through, the Democrats wanted a lot of spending. But what happened when we cut the rates from 70 to 28? Entrepreneurs and businessmen and investors, they were incentivized to risk time, toil, capital to develop all these new products that has elevated our standard of living. Fax machines, cell phones, all types of products for the internet, personal computers. All of this stuff was done after the tax cuts, and revenues doubled to the Treasury. So we need more free trade, which Lindsey Graham is against. He's increasing taxes, not cutting taxes. This makes us less competitive. The other thing I want to talk about, and I keep harking back to Graham, you know, his total desire to eviscerate our Fourth Amendment rights. Like I said, there's not an email he does not want to invade domestically, or a country he does not want to invade offshore, internationally. But I'm worried about our First Amendment rights. He's made statements that concern me with respect to our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, our Ninth Amendment rights, our 10th Amendment rights. So everything's under threat with this guy. Everything's on the table in order to protect his power. And I never hear him talking about his philosophy, about how he sees our government going forward. He's always speaking on behalf of what pork he got back to Charleston, which means he's cutting all sorts of deals. If we're getting some pork, we're having to do something for somebody else. What deal making he's engaging in. Or he's talking about what countries we should invade. Or he's doing the bidding on behalf of one of his benefactors to stay in power. To carpet bomb those who would run against him and to show positive ads of him, with our men and women in uniform, whom he says he has the back of. Well, I say he's got a bayonet to their back, enforcing them in harm's way unnecessarily in all these counterproductive wars, but I could go on ad nauseum about that. But we have to grow this economy. An unhidden tax on our economy. We know the taxes we pay. They just raised the capital gains rate from 15 all the way up to 23.5%, even though Charles Gibson, in a debate with Hillary Clinton, asked Obama, why would you raise the capital gains tax when historically, every time it's done, revenues to the Treasury go down. And every time you lower the rate, revenues go up. He said it was a matter of fairness. Didn't make any sense to me then, doesn't make any sense to me now. What it tells me is he has some grudge against people that are successful. Government is the problem. Unhidden tax is all the regulations. Not just the overt taxes, but all of these rules and regs that are coming from these unelected bureaucrats because of the abdication of the rulemaking from the legislative branch over to the administrative agencies. So, for example, just to run this U.S. Senate race, it'll probably cost me $100,000 in legal fees just to deal with all the rules and regs and the red tape, all the deadlines and all the disclosures and all the various things you can and cannot do. We can't make a move without talking to the lawyer because we have to, there may be some rule or regulation, and what we don't want to happen is to be on the headline, because if you violate one of these rules, you get crucified. But that's not what our Constitution was intended to do. The rules were supposed to be simple so the average layman could understand them. The way it is now, the most vigilant and judicious person, the person who's most alert of could run afoul of some rule or regulation. It's virtually impossible. When you're looking at tens of thousands of pages of rules and red tape coming out of Washington, no matter how careful you are, any person, there's a book out now, 3 felonies a day. Washington is just too big, and our 535 representatives cannot even provide proper oversight because it's trying to do too much. That's why they delegate so much to these administrative agencies. That's why so many programs either need to be cut, terminated, devolved to the states, or block granted. These grant aid programs should be block granted or privatized. We privatized air traffic control in Canada. People say, well, that's the dangerous activity. The government's got to do it. I would argue the opposite. We need entrepreneurs who are innovative, who are keeping up with the latest technology. We need the Postal Service. We don't even allow it any competition. Not only does the government have a monopoly, it doesn't allow competition. Germany privatized theirs. In New Zealand, they opened it up for competition. In fact, overnight providers can't even use our mailboxes. So I want to engage a debate, and I want to know why Graham has never talked about restructuring our government. If it's so far off track and we are headed towards a doomsday scenario financially, why isn't there any discussion about restructuring our government and looking at what works? Federalism works. Some people may say, well, look what happened with Jim Crow. Well, that's terrible. I believe in the 14th Amendment right. The slaughterhouse decision was horrible. It led to 100 years of Jim Crow. But I absolutely believe in the 14th Amendment, the immunities and privilege clauses and equal treatment under the law, that our rights given to us in the Bill of Rights and the 9th Amendment, our unenumerated rights, should be enforced throughout the states so that states can't violate those rights. But the larger point is that Washington central planners are trying to do too much. F.A. Hayek talked about it. He called it the fatal conceit, this notion that a group of central planners, a handful of people, can create a system that would supplant a system created by trillions of people. I mean, trillions of decisions made by billions of people. That they're going to make better decisions than the collective wisdom of the trillions of decisions made by billions of people. It's totally absurd. We know it does not work. I mean, there were 70 years of communism, and that led to other communist regimes. We know, historians have said, that between 150 and 200 million people died at the hands of communism. It leads to tyranny. And I'll just leave you with this. Individual liberty will do far more for the common good than collectivist coercion. I'm for individual liberty. I'm for a limited government, free enterprise, peace, and tolerance. And so many in Washington don't believe in peace. They don't believe in tolerance. They don't believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as you determine it. They want the government to determine, how you can pursue your happiness, who you can love. And they are intolerant. And the person who came up with the founding principles of our documents, John Locke, talked at length about this. The conventional wisdom back in the 1600s, and that's why it's so ironic now that the religious right would be so vehemently against me. Because John Locke said that, back in the day, it was conventional wisdom that without a coercive religious authority that society would dissolve into chaos and disorder. He pointed out that the truth was that the real disturbers of peace were those who were intolerant. And those were the principles upon which our Constitution was founded, to allow people to be free. The purpose of our government is to secure our natural rights from others, from those who would violate them through force or fraud. It's not about protecting us from ourselves. That leads to a surveillance state. That leads to prohibition, the war on drugs, all these failed policies. So I think we need the right person who's not only going to provide the right vote, but the right voice for the right issues. And we're clearly not getting that right now from our current U.S. Senator. I'm Thomas Ravenel, and may I suggest an alternative to the current occupant of the U.S. Senate seat. Please vote for me. I'm running as an independent November 4th. Thank you. Yes, what do you think?